Okay, welcome to this explainer on D.L. Dantes' framework. We're going to jump right in today by reflecting on a really simple yet totally profound phrase we hear almost every single day. You know the one, accept me as I am. It's an incredibly powerful statement, but as we're going to unpack today, it often hides a super complex underlying dynamic. We're going to explore the actual structure of acceptance and look at why true acceptance might just be one of the most demanding disciplines we can ever practice.
Right off the bat, we're hit with this absolutely crucial question. Does accepting others mean erasing yourself? And this immediately challenges the popular misconception that acceptance is just this, passive one-way street where you surrender. We kind of tend to think of acceptance as just nodding along and letting things be. But Dante's work forces us to stop and ask, at what point does accepting someone else's reality require you to completely dismantle your own? Section 1. Passive acceptance, the first myth. So when someone says to you, accept me as I am, we have to recognize that this is an undeniably honest, deeply human request for dignity. I mean, think about it. Everyone, literally every single one of us, wants to be seen without being reduced to just a single belief or a past mistake or an uncomfortable difference. There is a profound, fundamental dignity in that request, and society can get incredibly cruel when people are forced to beg for basic human acceptance. Section 2. Trap of self-erasure, losing yourself. Now here's where things get really interesting, because a dangerous distortion happens when acceptance only moves in one direction. Look at the stark contrast here. On one side, we have acceptance as a bridge. It's mutual, it's dignified, and it inherently requires dual change. It connects us. But on the other side, we have acceptance as a demand. This happens when someone demands to be accepted, but completely refuses to accept the limits or beliefs of the other person. It becomes entirely one-sided. It demands surrender, and it forces someone to just abandon their own boundaries. It literally stops being a bridge and turns into a brick wall. And wow, does this lead to a massive misunderstanding in our modern culture? We start confusing acceptance with surrender. You see this all the time, right? People think that accepting someone means approving of everything they do, validating every choice, and silencing absolutely every disagreement. Many of us fall into this trap of self-erasure. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a trap of false harmony. We mistakenly believe that to recognize another person's humanity, we have to abandon our own discernment, our own values, and our fundamental understanding of life. But as Dantes points out so perfectly, true acceptance does not require self-erasure. You really don't have to agree with every conclusion someone holds just to accept them as a human being. Section 3. The expectation loop. Human paradoxes. This right here highlights the friction Dantes identifies in human nature. It's about this psychological hypocrisy we all, if we're being honest, occasionally fall into. It's a loop. Step 1. We naturally demand freedom and patience for our own complexity. We want people to know that we're nuanced. But then, step 2, we turn right around and judge others purely by their actions, completely ignoring their motives or what shaped them. And finally, step 3, we resist changing to understand them, while actively demanding they change for us. We ask for grace, but we withhold it. We want understanding, but refuse to understand. It's a totally closed, toxic loop of expectations. Section 4. Paradox of acceptance, seeing without erasure. So how do we break out of this? Well, here is Dante's definition of the paradox itself. It's a discipline of seeing another person without judgment, while refusing to erase yourself in the process. Notice that word, discipline. It's a paradox because if I have to change my perception in order to accept you, then you must also be willing to change your perception to accept me. It is an active, demanding discipline. It is absolutely not a passive state of just letting things happen to you. Which brings us to this incredibly potent quote directly from the text. Acceptance is not the absence of change. It is the refusal to erase one another. This is a real game changer. It proves that true acceptance isn't about creating some impossible fantasy world where nobody ever changes. Life, conflict, growth, relationships, they inherently change us. The goal isn't to stay stagnant. The goal is to make sure that as we interact and inevitably change, we aren't wiping out the core identity and values of the other person. Section 5. Mutual dignity, shared responsibility. So the real question when we face change in relationships is whether that change leads to mutual maturity or if it just becomes an entitled demand for everyone else to rearrange themselves around us. Look at this comparison. On one side, compassionate entitlement. That's demanding to be accepted without giving anything back. On the other side, mutual responsibility. This means actively examining your own capability to understand others. Because without that balance of mutual responsibility, what we casually call acceptance just becomes another form of entitlement, all dressed up in the language of compassion. Simply put, if I ask to be understood, I have to become capable of understanding.
True acceptance means dignity and responsibility must move together. They are a package deal. They cannot be separated. I can ask to be accepted, sure, but I have to deeply examine whether I'm actually willing to accept in return. You can respect someone without turning their identity into the center of every single interaction you have. You can totally maintain your own boundaries while completely honoring their humanity. And you know what? That is the true discipline of mutual change.
So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Ask yourself, are you asking to be accepted, or are you demanding others rearrange themselves for you? Take a moment to reflect on your own relationships today. Consider whether your version of acceptance is truly a bridge connecting two complex individuals, or if it's just a one-sided demand. It's a lot to think about, right? Keep learning, keep reflecting, and I'll see you next time.